At some point since 1969, if you've heard about the show Turn On, you've probably also heard a lot of misinformation. You've probably had a lot of questions. Well, as you'll see later, now finally we're going to be able to answer a lot of those questions. So for a little background, the show Laugh-In was a huge hit in the late 60s on NBC. It was the #1 show on television for 2 seasons. And the producers of that, they were flush with success. They said, hey, let's try a show that's even faster paced than Laugh-In. Laugh-In was sort of a psychedelic vaudeville review. A lot of people say it was like Saturday Night Live. It really wasn't. But if you can see clips of Laugh-In online, decide for yourself. Turn On, they decided it was going to be even faster paced, even quicker cutting. It was only going to be a half hour, whereas Laugh-In was an hour. So they went to NBC and to CBS with a pilot, the producers did, and they both passed on it. I've seen a CBS executive, a quote from one that was unnamed, who said that the show actually made them physically feel a little ill because it was so quick-paced and there was lots of cuts and stuff. I haven't found any sourcing for that or the name of the executive, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's actually what happened, given the fast-paced nature of the show. So ABC, the distant third-place network, they decided in 1969 that they would put it on the air. They figured we have nothing to lose and a lot to gain. They had a slot coming open on Wednesday nights at 8:30 because the show Peyton Place was winding down. It had once been a big hit in the mid-60s. By 1969, it was winding down. At one point, it was a primetime soap opera, and at one point it was on 3 times a week. So they decided, well, we'll take one of those slots and we'll give it to this new show, Turn On. So February 5th, 1969, the show went on, and by the first commercial break, some stations already said, we are not going back to the show. It's too fast-paced. It is in poor taste. Channel 5, WEWS in Cleveland, that affiliate, they actually went to just basically like their emergency pattern and some organ music or something. No one's quite sure because there's no tapes that exist of this, but that's what's been reported after that first commercial break, and they just never went back to the show. A lot of other affiliates decided they weren't going to air it at all. So that was on Wednesday. By Friday, it was being reported not that the show was canceled. It wasn't canceled outright, but that a lot of affiliates were saying, we are not going to air this again. And ABC said, next week on the 12th, we're going to preempt the episode that's supposed to be coming on the 12th with a movie. And over the weekend, we'll talk to the producers of the show and see about the show's future, is how they put it. So just to give you some idea a little bit, here's a promo for Turn On that aired around that time.
Wednesday, February 5th. Uproarious, eventful entertainment. Look out for Here Come the Brides. Followed by a side-splitting split-second first. The premiere of Turn On.
I want everyone to take 2 steps forward. Your bodies will naturally follow you because ABC has assembled your freaks, your weirdos, your human curiosities, and we're bringing them into the privacy of your own home.
And the television world premiere of Spartacus.
All the power of Rome!
Winner of 4 Academy Awards, starring Kirk Douglas. Here Come the Brides, Turn On, and Spartacus Part 1. Wednesday, February 5th, in color on ABC.
It's a little rough compared to what you'll end up seeing in the actual show as far as the visual quality. Eddie Edwards, that's who that mustachioed character was, that was like the only real named person in any of this because it was just fast-paced, no time for setup or anything or introductions. Of course, people would know the guest hosts. So for the first episode and the only episode, it was Tim Conway, who was quite a big star, and he was actually from the Cleveland area. He was the host of the first show, and then the second show was supposed to be hosted by Robert Culp, who had recently been at that time on I Spy. That episode never ended up airing, of course, publicly. I've seen some sort of, I guess rumors would be the best word, that there were 8 episodes written and 5 that were actually completed. And the production process was very complicated, so getting even 5 done must have taken a while. There are script pages out there for what's listed as show number 3 with Sebastian Cabot from Family Affair. There's a telegram telling people that for episode 4, the guest was going to be Joey Heatherton. And then I spoke recently with a gentleman who was involved with a lot of reissues for the Monkees, the musical group. And he says that there's a 5th episode that had the Monkees as the guest hosts, and that he actually spoke with George Slaughter Productions, who owns Turn On, and was trying to get the rights for parts of that and was told no, which I have to think if the show didn't exist or it wasn't complete, they would have just said it doesn't exist. So perhaps it's out there somewhere in a vault. I don't know. I have no idea. But getting back to Tim Conway, the host of the first episode, he's joked that the show was canceled as it aired around the country. He said our premiere party became like a wake, and you could see as it went across the country, the show getting canceled. But as we see from AP copy, it wasn't officially canceled right there that evening. It was just a lot of affiliates saying, we don't want this. The Cleveland affiliate, by the way, sent a telegram, and this is what they wrote. And I actually got to speak to the general manager at the time, his daughter, Don Paris. Was the guy, and I spoke with his daughter recently, and she said, oh yeah, that sounds like my dad, because he had a good sense of humor, but he also had his finger on the pulse of what Northeast Ohio viewers would find acceptable and what they would want to see. So he sent out that telegram with his humorous way of putting things, semi-humorous, I guess, because he probably wasn't thrilled. And that kind of really started the death knell, I guess, for the show. If you ask George Schlatter, he feels that Don Paris was so respected nationally that he was able to call other affiliates and tell them, look, we want Peyton Place back. We don't want this, even before Turn On aired. And that was the reason that it got canceled. That's just, again, according to George Schlatter. I'm not sure if that's actually the case, but definitely Don Paris was respected throughout the country. He had worked his way up from what was called furnace tender at WEWS, so that's pretty impressive. So after the dust settled and the show, it was clear that it was not coming back and people went their separate ways, there are only really 2 times at that time that people talked about the show. One was about a month later on The Tonight Show. They were doing the shows from Los Angeles, which at the time the show was based in New York, and Bob Hope made a joke about Turn On, and it's kind of fitting because sitting next to him is Judy Carn, who was on Laugh-In at that time. So here's that exchange.
We're back now. I know you were taping the other night, Bob, because they had the dinner for Jack Benny.
Celebrating his 75th anniversary?
75th year old, 20th year in television.
It's hard to believe, isn't it? 20 years in television. Oh. That's hard to convince the producers of Turn On, I bet, huh? 20 years.
The only show that got canceled during a commercial. That is a short...
In the middle, they said Turn On. No, but wasn't that something? But that was George, too, though. We shouldn't mention that, because George has done pretty well with that other thing.
A big shock to him.
But Jack is great, you know.
At the time, reviews, of course, were not good. I think a lot of people then and now assume from the title that the show is mostly jokes about sex. And that's not true. At least half the material, probably more than half, was political or social commentary in some fashion. But the reviews back then were very negative. One of the more positive reviews was actually from Harlan Ellison, the writer who's from Cleveland, and he was saying that the show was not so much bad, but awkward. And he was a big fan of cutting-edge television, so he probably could see from the production standpoint how revolutionary the show was. And the way I've described it to people is, it's like watching TikToks back to back to back to back, very short TikToks. So maybe you'll feel the same way, because finally the first 2 episodes, the only 2 that are confirmed to have actually been finished, have escaped from lock and key after 54 years and have ended up online recently. So I went through and pulled just some cuts to make sort of a mini episode to show what it might be like if you had watched a few minutes of Turn On.
Well, Charlie, this is it. The first computerized TV show.
I never programmed a program before.
Mom always did like you best.
I feel so guilty. I mean, lying here, you know. I should be out shopping somewhere.
Tell me, where is the capital of South Vietnam?
Mostly over here, in Swiss bank accounts.
Take him away.
Hold it, Toad. I get one phone call.
Okay.
Hello. What time's the second show on A Funny Girl tonight?
student unrest, we of the Citizens Action Committee of America believe our high schools should be shut down in the interest of education. As District Attorney of the state of New Jersey, I'm investigating charges that too many state legislators are too comfortable with organized crime. Good morning, Rocco.
Have you tried to be more, I don't know, seductive?
Maybe he's just tired, or bored, or getting old.
Listen, love, don't forget you've been married a few years now. And statistics show that married people make love 2 8/10 times per week.
That's right. 2 for him and 8/10 for me.
She's cute, but she just doesn't understand the new math. Want to see my abacus?
The South has given the country many fine writers who have contributed to learning and culture. Men like Tennessee Williams, Truman Capote, and William Faulkner. Of course, they don't live down here.
Now, you may fire me for this, but we've got to do something about your son. He keeps coming in late, taking 3-hour lunches, and he's fooling around with the girls in the office.
Well, boys will be boys.
Yeah, but he's asking everybody how come we don't have a union.
Get rid of him.
Money is the only thing that means anything to you. What about love?
I love money.
What's so hard about being black?
What do you mean?
Well, why don't you pull yourself up by your bootstraps like everybody else did?
I can't afford bootstraps.
I just got hired at the circus. I'm the new fat lady.
You are the fat lady?
Yeah.
How did you get a job of a fat lady?
I lied about my age.
Ladies and gentlemen, the body politic.
I'm opposed to unilateral withdrawal.
Remember, you got the big one from E. Eddie Edwards.
And hopefully we've cleared up some misinformation. The show wasn't actually canceled that night on February 5th, 1969. It was later that the network went to George Schlatter, Ed Friendly, and said, look, we will buy out your 16-episode commitment if you agree never to run this show anywhere. And that's basically what happened until recently when these 2 episodes escaped somehow and ended up online.